Aviation Commissioners of the City of Warsaw to order. You should all have received all of your documents available through Board Pack. The first thing on the agenda being the minutes from the July 2023 meeting.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I second it with the caveat of, I never did find the CHA report attached.
CHA report, yeah.
Was it not attached? We will make sure that we attach that.
Been moved to second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Say nay. Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Next, claims. I've got the claims pulled up on my list. Nick, what do you specifically want to discuss with us?
Nothing too out of the ordinary. You'll see the Rice Ford invoice. That was for the car that was approved last month. SWAT Team Pest Control for $395. That's our annual pest spraying at the terminal building, keep ants and bees and all that kind of stuff away. And we have added the fuel farm to that as well. So they're spraying for bees around the fuel farm. We had a couple yellow jacket nests pop up out there that were chasing the guys around when they were trying to refill the truck. So we got that taken care of.
Pest control seemed to work on that?
Worked great so far.
Okay.
Very happy.
Anybody have any questions for the airport manager regarding the claims?
What we have bought from Amazon.
Linda, do you have that specifically? There's been a few things kind of like in the last few months that we can't find source locally that we just need to purchase for day-to-day stuff.
Gotcha, okay.
Oh, yeah. We got some new dry rate. You should come out and see the terminal in about a month and a half. We're finalizing the remodel, putting in the new carpet and that kind of stuff. And a big portion of that was some new dry erase boards that the guys asked for. So we now have a 4x6 foot dry erase board that they've put lines up, and it's really helping organize what aircraft are on the ramp, what services are needed, are they getting a overnight or a tie down feed, is there a aircraft in one of the hangars that needs to get pulled out before they leave. And because we have changed from a rotating schedule to a set shift, so we have an open, a mid shift, and a closed shift, it just allows all of the guys to really, to come in and look at that board and know exactly what is going on. The other big thing is if, say that two guys are out mowing and our closing guy hasn't come in yet, he can come in and see, oh, these two guys are out mowing right now, and he doesn't have to go hunt around the airport like we used to try and figure out what everybody's doing. And it's also letting our supervisors, just put on the board, I want you guys working on this today. So if they're out working on something else or fueling the guys, it's really, really helped with efficiency and streamlining what they do with their tasks on a day-to-day basis.
I've heard several good comments about it.
Well, it's good to hear. I think it looks really sharp too. I think it looks really sharp.
Okay, any further questions about the claims?
Nope. I move we accept the claims, especially the $44,509.86 for Accent Aviation Group.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Next, CHA. Nathan, how you doing?
Good evening, everyone. Doing well.
What do you got for us tonight?
Just a few things, be fairly quick, I think, this evening. So let me share my screen, and hopefully everyone can see that okay.
Yep.
So first things up is the runway 27 obstruction mitigation, otherwise known as the AEP power line project. Things are going along, progressing well. We're continuing to do ongoing coordination meetings every other week with the AAP team. They're tracking along the schedule they've presented, and so I think we're making good headway on that project. We do have a couple of invoices for CHA to seek board approval this evening. Those are invoices 9 and 10 associated with this task order number 2. And the total amount between the two invoices is $10,891.28. The local share out of that is $544.57. So we are seeking board approval for those two invoices.
I move we approve invoice 9 and 10 for CHA.
Second.
Amount of $10,891.28.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Okay, what's next?
Thank you. So moving on to the runway 927 safety area program and the project program definition and forecasting. We've been making some progress. Nick came down to Indianapolis and we did I'll say a half-day page turn and went through the report and some of the forecasting elements that go along with that report. And so where this sits currently is we're working with some industry vendors to provide some letters of support for the forecast. And then once we have those, then we can submit to the FAA and NDOT. And the reason for that is the FAA more or less instructed that they wanted the forecast and this draft report to come together. They didn't want it separated. So just taking a little longer than expected to get the letters from some of the industry folks that are primary users at the airport. So looking down the road, once we get draft comments, or once we submit the draft to the FAA and NDOT, and we do any comment reconciliation, we'll then be ranking alternatives to determine which is the highest and best use and highest ranking, if you will. And so we'll look to do all these things, targeting the end of the calendar year is what we're shooting for, which I think is a feasible target for this. Similar to task order number 2, we do have an invoice for CHA for task order number 4. This is invoice number 6 in the amount of $21,776 even, and the local share for that is $1,088.80. And so we are seeking board approval for that invoice.
I move we approve CHA invoice number 6 for the amount of $21,776.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve CHA invoice number 6. Any further questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
Thank you. So moving on to a couple of new items that are starting up. We discussed task order number 6 and 7, both at the last board meeting. And so between last board meeting and tonight's meeting, we've been able to complete the field work associated with the soil borings and pavement cores between July 25th and July 27th. And that captured both taxi lane E1, which is the corporate taxi lane, as well as what we needed for taxiway B. So we've got about a month or so now of lab work and a couple weeks of reporting that'll go with that. So hope by late August, early September, we'll see some results coming back from that effort. And keeping with task order number 6, we've been working with NDOT to prepare for a State Board of Accounts presentation, as well as facilitating the Office of Aviation's discussions with the FAA for this project. And so the Rehabilitate Taxi Lane E1, just as a reminder, is the state money that was awarded earlier this year. Any questions on either of those? Okay. So the last item is we've had a kind of a ongoing task with our general update. We are still, the ball's back in our court to develop a request letter for the FAA for consideration of the ILS takeover for runway 27. So that's just something that's, like I said, in our court to submit back to the folks at FAA. And that's all I got, unless anybody's got any questions.
Just explain to us again what you mean by, what we mean by ILS takeover.
So if I can I take this one,
in a
Nathan?
Oops, sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Can I take this one?
You sure can.
So it's funny, literally as I was driving down to the board meeting, Danny Malott called. So that I was gonna supplement. We currently own and maintain the instrument landing system at Warsaw. That contract is about $30,000 a year, plus any incidentals. So if something breaks, we have to pay for those costs as they come. If we can get the FAA to buy into taking over our ILS, we would need to replace it with the current model, which is, it's called a Thales 420. Once that model has been installed, we are hoping that the FAA will take over ownership. And if they do, then they will maintain it and as necessary, replace parts moving forward, saving us that annual operating fee, plus all of the incidental repairs and maintenance that are needed on that. So it would be an upfront cost, but it would be a long-term savings. And right now, unless something else happens, our plan is to use some of the money from the IEDC that we are hoping to get next summer to replace that ILS, and then hopefully have our paperwork in place with the FAA. So when the money comes in, we can get that project rolling, and then they can just take over ownership after that
Of
of the ILS. Correct.
And do we assume then that they will be as responsive as we are in trying to keep that thing up?
More
doing work?
more so.
Okay.
Right now, our tech, it's not that he can't get here, he just lives, I want to say 10 or 12 hours away. So if we call him and he's got a giant service area. I mean, there's times we call him and he's in northern Minnesota or he's in Texas. He just can't get to the airport for 2 or 3 days, and we're just down. Fort Wayne has a tech ops center in both Fort Wayne and South Bend, and so if something goes down, they can send one of their techs over most of the time that day to at least get eyes on it to figure out what's going on, and then hopefully put a plan in place to, if they can't fix it immediately, get the parts ordered and let us know.
Okay, and you believe that can translates into would do that?
Yes,
Okay.
I know these guys. Nathan works with them at Fort Wayne quite a bit. They're very, very responsive. They currently maintain, and it makes sense, they currently maintain some of the equipment at the airport. So we have what's called a remote radio transmitter, an RTR, and that is what allows our pilots to talk to Fort Wayne on the ground. They own that equipment and operate it. They also own and operate the PAPIs, the Precision Approach Path Indicator lights on runway 27. So they're here 2 or 3 times a month, already maintaining their current equipment. Adding the ILS, it makes sense because they're already coming to Warsaw. Why not let them take over one more piece of equipment?
Is the odds in the favor of doing that?
Nathan, what's the buzz phrase is cautiously optimistic?
Cautiously optimistic, and a lot of the reason for that is it was really the FAA coming to Nick and suggesting that we pursue it. So that's always a good sign.
So Fort Wayne wants to take it over. It helps their numbers, it helps their metrics, and like I said, they're already coming to Warsaw. Why not take over one more part of the airport? And it was that Franklin Hodge, the same guy you and I chatted with a couple months ago, that we were told to and that was what Danny was calling to tell me. They just got confirmation that's who we need to be working with. So we're talking to the right people already. That ball is in motion, and hopefully here in 8 or 9 months we can get that ILS replaced and let the FAA take it over, and it's one less piece of equipment we need to worry about maintaining at that point.
What's our estimated cost?
I think the last number I saw was $1,070,000. And the grant, I believe, that we received from IEDC was $1 million. So if you throw in 5 to 7% contingency, 1.1, 1.15 million, so it cost us anywhere from 70 to 150,000 to get that replaced. And then the IEDC would take over the rest. So pretty good return on our
Yep.
investments. Yep.
Still less than what it cost us originally, right, Gene?
And the nice thing is, if the FAA does agree to take it over, if, Lord willing, I will be dead and gone before it needs to be replaced again, but when it does need to be replaced, it is now FAA owned and FAA obligated. They will need to pay for the replacement at that point, not us. It would be through an AIP grant, just like when we get a runway repaved, but we will know about that and we can build that into our capital improvement plan, and so we would only be responsible for 5%.
Okay, any further questions about that or anything else on the CHA report?
Nope.
Is that all you got for us, Nathan?
That's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
And I can start talking.
Okay, you start talking, I'll start signing.
All right, so fuel usage report, as you guys can see, we're still down a little bit year over year. A big portion of that, I think, is just due to our local charter company has changed. They're doing less out and back flights, and they're doing more flights where they leave Warsaw, they're gone for a couple days and before they come back. That's been a big part of it. And I was just talking to Linda, we've not seen Johnson & Johnson, or Depew fly in quite a while either. I think those are the two main reasons we're seeing a little bit of a downturn in our fuel sales here this year.
Any feedback on why that is?
Nope. I think with Depew, a lot of it was through COVID. They just changed a lot of corporate policies, and their fixed wing aircraft are not flying like they used to. And I
I'd be
think
happy to
that's,
know my airplane's back, so I'm buying fuel.
so John's gonna make up the differences
thank
for
heaven.
us, so. It was good to see that bird out flying the other day, John.
Yeah.
It was funny, the guys didn't even recognize you when you
I
came
know they
in.
didn't.
They called it, John called and asked for fuel, and they're like, who is
Who are you?"
this? So, yeah, it was fun. But unless you have any specific questions on the fuel report and the income statement, do want to get right into it. We've got a couple things going on.
I just haven't heard, maybe missed it, I've heard discussion of flight by PWI.
PWI's Paul's Welding Incorporated.
Okay, okay.
Yep. So they were PWI, business reasons, they needed to change the entity to Flight by PWI. And they fly a Pilatus PC-12 out of Warsaw.
Okay.
Yep.
No, I knew who you're talking about when you say that, but.
Yep.
Okay.
So first thing, we have a hangar lease at the airport. Mark Strider actually landed at Warsaw a couple weeks ago, had some engine issues, and needs to rent one of our T hangars short term. Luckily, we don't have anybody in there right now, and so he's hoping to be out within 4 to 6 weeks, but he thinks it was a fuel injection issue. But we've already got him in one of the hangars, and I just need board's approval. He's been paying a daily rate, so he'd like to go to a month-to-month. And, I mean, he's been very responsive, no issues, and I would support this. So otherwise, the hangar's sitting empty.
Okay. It's money we wouldn't be making otherwise, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So I just need a motion on that.
And what are we renting it for?
$150 a month plus stormwater fees.
Okay. That seem okay to everybody?
Yep. Sure.
Okay. Motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve that.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve a hangar lease with, looks like Southwest Lakes, something LLC, Southwest Lakes.
Experience, EXP, yep.
XP, okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
And that leads me into a second portion of the hangar lease. We have one other T hangar that is currently open, and I would like to at least bring it up to the board if you guys would like to form a committee and study this further. We have been receiving more and more and more requests for either one night or a weekend hangar rental at the airport. Gentlemen who would like, and ladies who would like to store their aircraft inside a hangar to get out of weather, just to put it away over the weekend. They don't want it out on the ramp. And we have a way, we've been renting one of our hangars, and we've just been charging $25 a night, and we've been renting it quite a bit. We're making more on that than we are in the month-to-month rentals. And so I would like to at least make a proposal to the board that we keep one of our T hangars open for those incidentals. If somebody gets stuck at Warsaw, there's a bad thunderstorm and they need to land and put their airplane in a hangar. We've been either making or as much or more than we are in our monthly rentals, doing just the $25 a night this last month, than we have been having it full at $150 a month. And it's been really nice for our transient aircraft to be able to put that in.
So we just have one now that's open for that purpose?
Correct.
And you want to keep it that way?
I want to permanently keep it that way instead of trying to fill it with a permanent tenant,
Okay.
so that we have that availability for people who are coming and going throughout the week.
So until you bring us a request from a permanent tenant, we have nothing to do we?
Well, we have a few people that are on the waiting list that we are working with on that, on the hangar you guys just signed. They would come in right after this guy leaves in a couple weeks and be in there. We could fill both hangars potentially with the people that are on the waiting list. I personally think it's very wise that we keep one open for that rental. Just one, to protect the aircraft if there is bad weather, and two, is an extra moneymaker for the airport. And I wanted to bring it to the board, and
Dan?
Do we need a motion on something?
I'm Dan, was gonna say something.
What, the people on the waiting list, what are they doing now?
they're at other airports. So the person who was first in the waiting list, and I won't say who that is right now, but they currently don't have an aircraft. They are in the market for an aircraft. I'm very hesitant to sign a lease with, and this was the other part I was gonna talk to you guys, I'm hesitant to personally sign a lease with someone who doesn't currently have an aircraft, because I don't want it to become a storage hangar while they wait for 12 or 16 or 18 months to get an airplane and put it in there. The reason the rent is low is because we're trying to sell gas. We want airplanes to come to Warsaw so we can
Right.
sell them fuel. If
That's
you don't have an
where-
airplane, then
That's
how,
where I'm leading my question to,
Yeah.
that
yep,
the people that are on the waiting list, if they're somewhere else and getting them to Warsaw in a hangar would sell more fuel than the $150 a month we're losing, I guess I should, possible, where's the best economics for us?
Right.
they would need, with the month-to-month hangar rental, they would need to purchase between 2 and 250 gallons a month to make up the 100, or if they were renting at 150 versus us making $250 to $300 a month in night-to-night rental, that person would need to purchase about 2 to 250 gallons of fuel per month to make up that difference.
Which is probably unlikely.
Correct. One gentleman that we called came down and did look at the hangar. He currently had an aircraft, chose to stay where he was. It was a little further away. He said it was a 50-50 for him. The hangar he was in, he had a sliding door versus ours had the electric bifold, but his hangar was heated in the wintertime and this one is not. And so that was why he chose. He said the other hangar was $50 more a month. And it was shared. It wasn't a private hangar. But the heated hangar through the winter was enough for him to stay where he was. I've called the next person on the list. I've not heard back from them yet, so we're working our way through that. With our budget season having been the last couple weeks, that's kept me pretty busy. And so I've not been as diligent, I'll be honest, as I should have the last 2 weeks calling people. I've been focused on the budget more than that. But this week and next, that's number one on my list, is calling those people and seeing who would be interested in a long-term lease there. I still think it would be smart to keep the one hangar open, because we just don't have anywhere to put these people when they come in.
Gene, you were gonna say?
I was gonna say that, yeah, I would want this. I would like you to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know that we need a motion. I would look
Yeah,
at,
see, I was thinking that, I mean, until you bring a prospective tenant to us,
yeah.
we're just not involved in making that decision. So if you don't bring that tenant to fill that last spot, it's never a problem. Now, I understand you might get to the point where you say, we gotta have this as a matter of policy, because I got 5 people waiting that are all really mad at me.
Yeah.
But you're not at that point yet, so I would say you maintain your flexibility for that, and if you need us to back you up down the road.
I think the only thing I would need the board's approval on is a nightly rate.
Yeah.
And so I will put that on my to-do list, is come up with what other airports are charging for a T-hanger overnight. Is there a weekly discount, something like that? But I'll work on that and bring that to, maybe not next month, but
Yeah.
we'll see how responsive other airports
Okay.
are to us, so.
Okay.
Like my booking.com discount Thursday,
Yeah.
20% off, something
Yeah.
like that? Okay.
So,
Okay.
That's good.
okay. And then moving on to the next, the airport emergency plan. So during COVID, I reached out to the fire department, and I have been working with Battalion Chief Bollinger for the last 18 months to put together a airport emergency plan. And this is more pre-planning than it is anything. As you guys will see, it is a very large document. This is not the final draft. There are still a few typos, formatting errors that we are working through. Once this has been finalized, proofread, and we move forward with it, this is something that both the airport board and the fire territory would adopt. And it will give us a very clear plan and path if there is ever an incident or an accident at the airport. What is the response and how do we respond to that? To put this in perspective, to understand what we're trying to do, say, it's 2:00 in the afternoon, we're at the airport and we get a radio call from an aircraft. We're inbound, we are showing 2 green, meaning 2 of the landing gear down and locked, 1 landing gear is not. We can't tell if it's locked or not. That is a known issue that sometimes happens. So what is the pre-response? If they call us and say, we've got 3 hours of fuel on board, what do you want us to do? Let's put you in a holding pattern, go out over this fix and do a hold. We're gonna call the fire department and have them come out. They don't need to, as we say, blues and twos, they don't need to turn on lights and sirens, but they're gonna hurry out to the airport. And then we will have a plan of where they're going to set up and stage, so that when this aircraft comes in to land, we already know roughly what our response is gonna be. Hopefully, it's just a bad switch, the gear is down and locked, they land, it's a non-issue, and we move on with life. Heaven forbid that gear collapses. We've already got EMS on scene, we've already got the fire department on scene, and we are calling in more resources so that we are able to deal with that incident immediately. To go to more of an emergency, if they call in and say, hey, we're showing landing gear is not down and locked, they do a low pass, yep, one of the landing gear is not coming down, it is stuck up for whatever reason, and they say, we've only got 30 minutes of fuel on board. That is a different response than, oh, just take your time getting out here.
Yeah, I would hope so.
And so I don't know what the final terminology will be, but maybe that is a alert red versus, an alert yellow. Yellow is come on out, but you don't need sirens and lights, but alert red is bring the Coast Guard, and call everybody. And so obviously, I have basic training in that. I went to the professionals and said, how do you want to put this document together? They reached out to a lot of different airports and got their FAA approved plans. We are not going to make ours FAA approved. We are just going to have a local plan that is adopted here with our first responders. Since we do not have commercial air carrier services, we do not need a FAA approved document. I think Nathan has been through this with a couple of his other commercial air carrier airports. It is an incredibly expensive and time-consuming endeavor to get an FAA-approved airport emergency response plan. Having one puts us in a better place than where we are now. I do not believe we need a full FAA-approved plan. I mean, that could cost us $250,000 or more just in putting that together with all the consultant fees and everything else. So I just wanted to get this in your hands, let you start looking at it. Dan, I'll make sure I get you a copy so you can see it too. I just wanted you to be aware, we are working on that. And through that process, the new fire chief came out, visited the airport, gave him a tour, was showing him what equipment we have, you know, where some of the aircraft are located. And he made a comment about the hangar numbers had been brought up to him. John and Dan, you both know, we have no true rhyme or reason to how hangars were numbered. It's kind of wherever one went up, that was the next number on the list. And so we have some areas of the airport, it goes from 6 to 8 to 7 to 16 to 13 to 18 to 25, back to 20. And they are less, as the fire chief put it, I'm not super concerned because if there's a fire, we're gonna go to where the smoke is. What we are concerned with is if there is a heart attack or another medical emergency at hangar 21 Charlie, well, 21 Charlie is next to hangar 16, which is next to hangar 13, which is next to hangar 20 and 26, I think. There's like 5 different, no order, that's just right in the middle of all of those. And so he would really like the airport to consider renumbering our hangars, coming up with a structured system. They can help us with that. And then having a standard system of where we place those hangar numbers on the buildings so that when they come in
They could find
at
it.
9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, if there's an emergency, they know exactly where they're going right when they get to the scene. So,
That sounds like an intern project to me.
well, I think it might start it, our interns are starting a week from, in fact, this coming Monday. It might be a little bit, they might start the project, but then it might go from there because we have several businesses on the field with addresses that we are gonna need to work with to make sure that their business operations are not disrupted through this as well as if they do have a true address change. So there's a lot for us to consider in this project. I just wanted to bring it to you and let you know it was brought up and we're gonna be working on it. So if you hear about it, that's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Yep, and then the last thing is, our intern last year, Carson, started our social media presence. That was something we had not really done a whole lot with. And he did a great job with the foundations, but we just need more finesse and to have a more structured plan with getting our name and our story out to the public. We did a pancake breakfast about a month ago. It was a resounding success. We had over 70 people fly in just to stop and get pancakes and sausage for breakfast. They wanted to tag us on our Facebook and, you know, say that they were at the airport. Well, there's another Warsaw Airport page that we don't know who owns it, and we've tried taking over that page and we can't for whatever reason. So there's multiple pages.
Can I make a bet after the meeting's over? We'll see if I'm right.
We don't think it is, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have, we talked with Orange Marketing Group, who runs the city's social media page. They help with marketing, and I would really like to work with them. The proposal that they have given us would be $850 a month for a 1-year contract. And so that would take care of all of our social media. They would put together a plan. They would talk to us and say, you know, these are the types of posts you need to be doing. Get us, you know, this type of picture, this type of content, and then they will help build everything and make sure that it's going out in a timely fashion for us. And then the other side of that would be a logo and brand development. So our logo is at least 30, if not 30 years old, if not older. And I would really like to rebrand the airport and really move us into the 21st century. We are making a lot of really positive changes, and I would really like to look at some ideas of a new logo to see, you know, show you guys or show the public we are moving forward, and there's a lot of really fun, exciting changes coming. And I think a part of that comes with the logo and a rebranding of the airport as well. And so they are willing to do that for just a flat rate of $1,500 to help us through that logo and rebranding.
Mayor, what do you think? Do you have any input on this?
Council discussed it last night, and I think they gave pretty much a thumbs up to it. They saw the value of it, importance of, again, with airport being the gateway to a lot of folks, industry coming in the community, having a little bit fresher impression of what we do and why we're here. Made sense in the social media side of it. After what we went through this last year, I think people need to understand what we do, and we need to get that message out. So I mean, $1,500 doesn't sound like a bad deal. The other part of that is we work with the same group, our city webpage, and they do a phenomenal job for us.
Yeah.
So I'd certainly be,
Well, I'm looking at this proposal down at the bottom, Nick, and it's got the logo and brand development, 1,500, and then social media marketing and advertising, $850 a month. You're
Correct.
suggesting both of those that we
Correct.
should do, right?
Yep, and then that would be for a one-year contract, that, and that gets our foot in the door. At the end of the day, it's a little, right around $10,000 for that social media. 12 months from now, let's go back and look. If we've got a lot more people coming in, engaging with the page, I think, that the numbers will show for itself. And a year from now, if it's flat, we're not really doing anything with it, we reevaluate if we need to keep doing that social media side. But Mayor, I know that the city has just exploded with popularity, with people coming in and interacting with the page, learning more about what the city is doing. And part of that fee includes some small promotional stuff, advertising on Facebook, showing if we've got the SOAR event going on, that will be a promoted post, and it will reach a further group of people as well. So that's not just managing that, there will be some advertising with that as well.
it takes a while to build your following and your effectiveness, which we found. But boy, when it picked up, it was well worth it. And I think it's a good idea to maybe reevaluate annually. That's what we did. We looked at the growth to see if it made sense. I think you got to give it a year,
Yep.
just from my limited knowledge of social media development.
Questions, comments, input from anybody? If we get John buying fuel again, we'll be able to pay for this.
I'm for it.
Is that a motion to approve entering into the contract?
Okay, we'll do that.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
All I will say is that a wise man once told me, with social media, if there is a void, the general public will put in whatever information they want to put in. But if you are constant with your output and you have a consistent brand that you are, and information that you are putting out there, you can control the story and the narrative a lot better. And I think that's what we are trying to do is educate the public on what we do. Because I think there's a very, very big misconception on what we do and how we do it out at the airport.
Okay.
Nick, I assume that monthly figure accounted for their monitoring the page
Correct. Yep, all of that.
and putting up fresh content.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
I had Stacy look it over. She said it's very similar to the agreement that the city has. So she's been a great resource, and thank you to her and your office for helping with that.
Well, and I think it'll, I would assume there'll be links from the city page.
Correct. Yep, they're gonna make sure everything is monitored and interconnected, and all the archiving is, because that's the other big thing. We have to have specific archiving on. They're gonna manage all of that for us.
Most of our departments have their own page,
Yep.
fire service, police, the parks do, street department, I think they all have their pages.
Yep.
So this makes sense.
Well, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
And I think, is that the last thing on there? Visitors, comments, or questions?
Mayor, you have anything for the good of the order?
I did have a question on that lengthy plan that Aaron is working up through the fire territory. Was there any contemplation in that document about facilities, fire facilities north of town, more adjacent to the fire territory? I'm just curious because that discussion came up several years ago, and I didn't know if it was somehow woven into this. I glanced through it and didn't see it, but obviously response times are important.
So yes and no. No, the facility itself is not brought up in this. This is only what we currently have at the airport.
Okay.
So if you look at the appendices, it would be number 25, and that is emergency response equipment inventory. We are going to build a map of what emergency response equipment we have on the airfield. So right now, we have two 100-pound fire bottles that are halon bottles out at the fuel farm. We have probably 25 or 30 Purple K fire bottles on trucks, on equipment. We have another 4 30-pound halon bottles on our 2 fuel trucks. And then we house, I believe it is called Trailer 2, Fire Foam Trailer 2. And that is the AFFF foam at the airport. We are the staging ground for the north side of the city. So if there is heaven forbid, there's a tanker that overturns and catches on fire on 30, we have an emergency response protocol in place with fire department where we get that trailer ready, we open up the gate, they connect to their trailer, and they take it off the field. They go where they need to go.
What section was that in? You said 12?
That's under the appendices, number 25, 25-1.
Okay,
And so that's just the equipment that we currently have.
right.
In 10 years, 15 years, whatever that number is, if we ever got a Station 3 at the airport, or excuse me, Station 4 at the airport, that would be listed underneath that, but this is more what is on the ground in place now. I have been looking, and I know that Battalion Chief Bollinger has also been looking for what is called a rapid response vehicle or a GRAS vehicle. We are looking through government surplus websites, if we can find a used military piece of equipment, or if another department is decommissioning something, if we can get it up for little to no expense outside of transport. A grass truck or an emergency vehicle that, has 100 gallons of water and 20 gallons of foam, more for my staff. I'm thinking worst case scenario, if an aircraft crashes and catches on fire, and somebody's trapped on board, if we can get the fire under control just to save life, that's what that piece of equipment would be for. If we find that piece of equipment, it would go in underneath that emergency response equipment inventory.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I see the equipment here now, but no mention of facility.
Correct.
And you do house, as you suggest, some foam. I think
Yep.
foam trailer is out there.
Yep.
And is that stored in a facility, in a
Correct.
building?
Yep.
Okay. All right. That answers my questions.
Okay. Any further questions, comments from anybody?
That's all I got.
Okay, well, hearing no other business, meeting adjourned. Next meeting is September 9th? 12th.
12.
Okay.
Yep.
September 12th. We'll see you then.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Robert and Ranjit.
Thanks, Steve.
I know, I saw
Great. We're gonna look, we know where all the acronyms
Yeah.
are now.
memorize
Any
it.
ones that we don't know.
You will be tested on
Yeah.
that.
Well, and that's part of what I'm adding. So we have the acronyms.